Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to our first Open Day webinar called Admissions Explained. I'm just going to give our families, our attendees, a chance to get on board this Zoom webinar, and then we'll get started. Thank you for your patience. We'll give some more people a chance to get onto the Zoom webinar platform. Thank you. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Admissions Explained, the first of our Open Day webinars and Open Day events, in fact, to help you develop an understanding of UWCSEA in Singapore and our college community. My name is Malika Ramdas, and I'm Director of Admissions at UWC here in Singapore. We are so grateful for you for having taken some time out of your day to join us today. This is the first of a series of Open Day events that we have planned for you over this next month. And we really encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity to get to know us better and to have your questions answered. Before I go any further, a little tip for you. We have on Zoom the option of seeing my comments in whatever language you choose. So if you go to the Show Captions button, which is marked CC, I believe, you can click on that and choose the language of your choice and then see my comments in a different language. So please go ahead and do that if you would like to at this point. Okay, so about 2 weeks ago now, we had the pleasure of welcoming about 1,000 new students to both our college campuses here in Singapore. And just a few days later, we also welcomed over 300 alumni from different generations, as well as their families, to our signature annual alumni reunion event. Now, it's always really wonderful to reconnect with our alumni and to hear their stories and their journeys since they left the college. And this year was no different. And indeed, one of the recurring themes of their conversations is just how close they feel to friendships that were initiated, that were made a really long time ago, in some case over 50 years ago. And as I toured a group of 20 or so alumni ranging from the class of 1980 all the way up to the class of 2015, I could really feel that friendship expressed in their conversations and shared memories. And I also really enjoyed watching their amazement at all the changes on campus since the time they had left. And that brings me to one of the exciting upcoming changes for at least one of our campuses, which is that in 2032, the Dover campus will be moving from its current location to Tengah, which is further west from our current location here on Dover Road. Now, that's still 7 years away, so please don't worry. However, if your children are joining us in grade 6 or below in August 2026, then yes, they will be graduating from our brand new Tengah campus in the future. As many of you may know, we have already had the experience of building a campus from scratch, a brand new campus from scratch. That was our East Campus, which opened on its present location in 2011. And so we're well experienced, and in fact, we're well underway with the planning for our new Dover campus as well. So we hope that you will take advantage of our upcoming open days to get to know us better, to come onto campus and to learn from our educational leaders, our staff, our students, and our parent community what this college is all about and what our transformative education is all about. So I would strongly encourage you to sign up for the open days if you haven't done so already. It's still not too late. And here on the slide in front of you, you can see the link to our open days sign up. So please go ahead and sign up if you haven't done so already. This year, we're going to feature a new element to our on-campus open days. So even if you have been before, we would love to welcome you back. And that is a question and answer opportunity with some of our educational staff, so that if you really want to dig deep into aspects of the learning program, you can get the definitive answers from the experts themselves. So again, we really look forward to welcoming you to those events. And the first of our on-campus events kicks off next week at our East Campus with infant school and junior school open days planned there. So we, as part of the UWC nonprofit movement of 18 colleges around the world, all share the same mission, and that is to make education a force to unite people, nations, and cultures for peace and a sustainable future. And we're really proud of this big, bold mission of ours. And we want families who are thinking about applying to the college to really embrace our mission and values. So let me give you a moment to just have a look at what those are. And as you engage with us through these webinars and through our on-campus events, or by connecting with a member of my team in admissions, do reflect on whether our mission and values resonate with you and your child and your family, because of course, that's what we hope. A little bit about our community. So we are big. We have 2 campuses in Singapore, and we comprise just over 6,000 students across these campuses. We have lots of families across the college, and we have at each campus a smaller boarding community within the larger college community. We have approximately just under 350 boarding students, and of those, we have a very unique and wonderful group of young people called our UWC scholars, who come to us through the UWC national committees, who select them in over 150 countries around the world. Our students are incredibly privileged to have a very good student-teacher ratio of about 10.5 students per teacher, and lots of other staff who support their learning every day at the college. And you can see here that we have a really multicultural and multilingual community with 118 different student nationalities and 80 different home languages spoken at the college. Now, how this breaks down a little bit more across our campuses, you can see on this slide. So at Dover, we have just over 3,100 students, about 180 boarders, of which 56 are our scholars. And at the East Campus, just under 2,900 students, about 160 boarders, and about 50 scholars. So yes, we are big, but I can assure you that our educational and pastoral teams do an incredible job of fostering a really nurturing, much smaller community feel for each child, so that for each individual child, it really doesn't feel this big. They are a part of their class, their grade, their school, and their little world, which is kind of a microcosm within the larger college community. And I hope you will come and visit us soon to experience what that's like in person when you engage during our on-campus open days in particular. But you'll also get a great sense of that through our presentations by our principals at the webinars. So in brief, then, we have day students who represent the ages of 4 through 18 years, and we offer education from kindergarten up to grade 12. We have a boarding community that currently represents grades 8 through 12. And an important note is that that will be changing because we are phasing out grade 8 boarding. And so 2026 will be our final year of entry for grade 8 boarding. And thereafter, you would have to apply for grade 9 or above. And then, as I mentioned before, our wonderful group of scholars from around the world who really add a special dimension to life in boarding, but also life in the wider college community. And And all of our students get to enjoy a very unique, holistic education program. We talk about the 5 elements of our learning program, which you can see inside the inner circle of this representation here. And those 5 elements are academics, activities, outdoor education, personal and social education, and service. We follow what we call a concept-based approach to teaching and learning. And again, you will have this unpacked for you during our webinar sessions from our educational leadership. We are large, but it also allows us to offer an extensive program of language choices and subject choices to our students, particularly at IB level, but indeed right across the school. And I'll show that to you in a moment. In K1 through grade 10, we offer our own unique UWCSEA program of courses. And then that transitions students into the IB diploma program in grades 11 and 12. So, as I mentioned, we are very fortunate to be able to offer our students an incredible breadth and range of subject choices and language choices. You can see on the left-hand side of this slide that the number of courses, as well as the number of languages, increases steadily as we move up from the infant and junior school through to middle school and then into the high school years. And for our IB students, we offer almost every single IB subject that is available. So it gives them a great degree of flexibility and the ability to customize their learning journey. And very excitingly, as of a year ago, we also offer the pilot program called the IB Diploma Systems Transformation Leadership for Change option. So this is an even more flexible approach to doing the IB diploma, but still with all of the rigor and very high expectations of IB students. And again, you are welcomed to learn more about that through our high school open days, and we also have more information on our website. So in addition to the lesson time, as I mentioned, we have our 5 elements of our learning program. And you can see here just a quick representation of how much time our students do spend engaged in the rich variety of activities and service opportunities available at the college. So this just captures a sense of how much time our students across all school sections spend engaged in those activities. And again, you will learn much more and in greater detail about these opportunities available to your children. So I will now turn my attention to the business of today, which is to unpack for you the admissions philosophy and process that we follow here at UWC-SEA. How then do we select our students? Well, as you've heard me say already, our mission and values are incredibly important to us. So we're always looking to select students and families who have the potential to align with our mission and values, who seek the kind of broad and holistic education program we offer, and who really want to take advantage of the opportunities and contribute to the community here through their own interests, passions, and the different kinds of diversity that they represent. So what does that mean? Of course, it translates into specific entry criteria that we have, just as all schools do. And I want to say a little bit about each of these elements to our that are part of our entry criteria. So students do need to demonstrate positive approaches to learning. We're really keen to understand what students are like in their current learning environment. Are they engaged? Are they active? Are they taking initiative? Are they demonstrating a good approach and excellent effort in their current learning environment? We learn a lot from their school reports about all of this, and it's very important to us to have engaged students who will take advantage of their learning opportunities. We do pay attention to academic attainment or grades because we do have a rigorous and demanding learning program here, and we want to make sure that students can access it successfully and thrive within it. So typically, we're expecting to see grades within the middle to upper bands of the students' current grading system in their current school. And then, as you've heard me say already, we have a myriad of opportunities available to our students. And so we are keen to see what their current interests and extracurricular involvements are like. Are they engaged in the opportunities available to them at present? Are they extending themselves beyond the classroom, either within school or outside? For our older students, or for our older applicants rather, we are very keen to get a sense of their own understanding of UWC in Singapore. Have they delved into our website? Have they found out a little bit about us? What is their understanding of our mission, values, and learning program like? So the next two bullet points essentially are talking about how we see that expressed in their applications. We do want to make sure that we are appealing to you or to your children for the right reasons. And finally, for our boarding applicants, we are a really important element of our entry criteria is to assess their suitability for boarding. And I'll say a little bit more about how all of these things are assessed as I go on. So we are a highly multilingual community, as you saw in my earlier slide. However, our medium of instruction at the college is English, and we are not a bilingual school. So I will spend the next couple of slides speaking a little bit about our expectations of English language exposure and background that students need to have coming in so that they can really enjoy their learning and access it successfully. So for our youngest applicants, those applying to infant school, students are expected to be able to share some of their ideas in English without significant support. For grade 1, the expectations are a little bit higher than that, meaning that they should have their basic literacy skills by that point. Typically developed in an EMI or English as a medium of instruction schooling environment. For our youngest applicants, all the way through infant school into and up to grade 5, we do not have an assessment of any kind. I'll move on to grades 2 to grade 5, where definitely we are expecting some oral fluency. We need students to be developing their literacy skills. And typically for grades 2 and 3, we would be looking for 2 or more years of English medium schooling. And for grades 4 and 5, typically about 3 years of prior EMI schooling. Again, no assessment, but what we do is that our EAL coordinators will review the applications very thoroughly, possibly asking for additional information from the student's current English teacher and from their current school. Moving on then to our middle and high school applicants and what our expectations are here. Obviously, as the rigor and demands of the curriculum increase, so too do our expectations for the students' prior English exposure and background. So for middle school, we do expect strong oral language fluency and some academic English proficiency in terms of their literacy skills. Typically, students would have had 3 or more years of English medium instruction, and we will send students an online EAL assessment in order to gauge whether they are ready for our middle school program, either with some EAL support or possibly without any EAL support. And then for high school, of course, that is the most demanding. Those are the most demanding years of the academic program, and so we definitely want to see that students have sufficient academic English language proficiency. And again, we will assess that through an online EAL assessment that we send to the student. Okay, so that was a little bit about the English language expectations. We do have a comprehensive EAL support program all the way through the school. However, the focus is very much on building students' academic English proficiency. So do pay attention to those guidelines of what we expect. I'm now going to move on to all the different elements that we consider in the application. So we do ask for a minimum of 2 years of school reports. Obviously, for the youngest applicants, that may be less than 2 years if they haven't been in school that long. If the school reports are not in English, then we will ask for translated school reports. We also look at any additional information provided by the current school. Sometimes we reach out for that information as and when we want to get more insight into a particular aspect of the student's background. For our youngest applicants for K1 and K2, and sometimes for some grade 1 students as well, if they are in Singapore, we invite them to what we call a meet and play assessment. This is a play-based observation session, which lasts for about 30 to 45 minutes. And it's really an opportunity for our students to, for the applicants to be able to engage in a infant school classroom and have our infant school teachers get an understanding of whether they are ready to come into the highly interactive environment at the college. As I mentioned, we definitely consider the EAL review, which is conducted by our EAL coordinators, or the online assessment, which is then reviewed for our grade 6 and up applicants. Some students may have additional learning needs, and if so, we may invite them in for an assessment or assess their ability to thrive within our environment in some other ways, possibly reaching out to their current school for more information. And then the student statement, a really important part of the application for grade 6 through grade 11. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the application to review. And we this year have brand new questions for our student statement. So for those of you who may have applied before, please pay attention to the fact that this has changed. We really love to hear the student's own authentic voice. And so my little tip for parents is please make sure that the student statement is entirely your child's authentic piece of work. We really do not want to see any parental involvement or ChatGPT support for this piece of the application. And finally, any other information that you have submitted as part of the application is also taken into consideration. So for grades 9, 10, and 11, our high school, we are very aligned with the UWC movement-wide expectations here. And so the qualities that you're seeing on the screen are actually articulated by the UWC movement, by the International UWC Office, as qualities that we're seeking in our high school learners. So we're looking at intellectual curiosity. We're looking at whether they have an active commitment to their own values and those of UWC. We're looking for social competence, resilience, self-awareness, and independence in our young students coming into high school, personal responsibility and a sense of integrity, and academic robustness. And how are all of these things assessed? How do we evaluate whether students possess these qualities or have the potential to develop them well in the course of their high school years? Well, we have something called a virtual immersion program, or VIP for short. So the first step for an English language learner will be that we send that EAL assessment that I spoke about earlier. And assuming that the review reveals that they can thrive within our program, then along with all other high school applicants, they are invited to an interview, which is a one-on-one interview with a member of our high school team, or for the boarding applicants, that interview will be with a member of our boarding staff. We also invite all high school applicants to what we call our group interaction and discussion forum activity session. And the discussion forum is an exciting part of the day where it's actually our own high school students who act as facilitators and lead our applicants in that discussion. For grade 11 applicants, there may be additional requirements depending on the subjects that they are planning to study in the IB. So if they are planning to study a language other than English, then we ask for an academic writing sample for that language, and that then gets reviewed by our head of department for that particular language. If the student is planning to study music or art or design technology, similarly, we will ask for a portfolio of work, which then gets reviewed by the head of that subject. So that's a little bit about what our high school assessment program looks like. So once we have reviewed an application and we have determined that a student has met our entry criteria, they then become part of our eligible applicant pool, from which we then have to make decisions about whom to offer places to. So this is all part of creating our community. And I would highlight two elements that we really focus on when trying to craft our community. When we have the opportunity to admit new students to the college, we're really looking at complementing the diversity of the current cohorts within our existing community. And so the intentional diversity of the college is a really key piece here. And in a moment, I'll say a little bit more about what we mean by diversity. The other element that we're looking at is, are we being as inclusive as we can possibly be, while making sure that we're being responsible in terms of that inclusiveness? What I mean here is that we want to make sure that every child thrives when they join UWC, and every child receives the support that they may need, whether that's for learning needs or social emotional needs. So we have to keep in mind the support available and if there are any constraints there. So really, diversity and being responsibly inclusive are the things I want to highlight. We really pay a lot of attention to this in our offer selection process. So what then do we mean by diversity? I think sometimes people want to distill this down into one element, and I just want to really stress that we're looking at so many different things when it comes to that diversity piece. We are considering a student's academic interests. We're looking at different personalities. That can manifest, I'm sure you know this as parents of children, when they're as young as 4 years old to all the way through to every year of their development. We're thinking about cultural diversity, not just in terms of countries that a student may have lived in, but also what does the family culture embody? We're thinking about learning needs, a child's educational history and background, different talents and skills that are represented in our applicant pool, gender, ethnicity, extracurricular activities, different nationalities, yes, of course, but also I mentioned we're paying attention to linguistic profiles and family backgrounds. So it's really a whole gamut of things that we consider, and they are all very important to us when we're thinking about how to select for offers. Now, that brings me to probably our most difficult job in admissions is selecting from all the wonderful applicants who meet our entry criteria, represented in the bigger circle on the left here, when it comes to selecting for offers to fill a limited number of spaces that we have available. So as I said, yes, we're considering all of those different elements of diversity. And then we also have some demographic or priority considerations. For example, does the student have a sibling at the school already? Do we have siblings who are applying to different grades where we have the spaces available for those particular grades, and where we feel that those students will be bringing in complementing the current cohorts in those respective grades. We pay attention to alumni children. We pay attention to whether a student is reapplying or is a returning student. So there are various kinds of demographic considerations or priority considerations along with those diversity considerations. Speaking of filling spaces, I do want to give you a sense of how many spaces we may have to fill. Now, please note that this comes with a great big caveat, and that is that all of these anticipated spaces are purely that. They are anticipated. They are our best guess at this point in the year of what our space availability may look like for August 2026 entry. So rest assured, this information is now available on our website, on our Make an Application page. You can click through and look at this at your leisure. But essentially, you can see that at the Dover campus, we are expecting the spaces that you see in orange here. So we start out with the largest number of spaces in K1, and then that progresses through up to grade 11, our last entry point. You'll notice that we have 0 spaces available in K2 at the Dover campus, and that's because we don't open a new class section at Dover for K2. We also anticipate very few leavers from K1, and that is why we don't actually open applications for K2. However, you can apply for K2 on our East campus, and I'll show you what the space availability looks like there in a moment. So as we progress up, you can see that in certain grades, we have a larger number of spaces. In certain grades, it's fairly tight, and that will be the case for grade 11 next year. So moving on to East Campus, again, you'll see that typically we get 2 to 3 applications per place. That's true for the whole college. And here you can see again the anticipated availability in the orange section of each bar chart. And the 2 grades where things are likely to be quite tight, no surprise, are grades 3 and grades 5. And that's because those are grades where we don't add a new class section. So you can see that the total capacity there remains 168 between grade 2 and grade 3, and it remains 192 between grade 4 and grade 5. So we are dependent on the leaver spaces in those grades. We're also anticipating that we will be quite tight on grade 11 spaces next year. Having said that, we warmly encourage applications. We absolutely will have some spaces to offer, so please do consider applying if you're interested in coming directly into the IB. All right, so keeping in mind the spaces that we have to fill, I want to move us along now to how you actually apply. We have a family dashboard for you on our application portal. We launched this a year ago, and it has proved to be successful. So we will continue with our family dashboard, and it has a few changes this year, some minor changes. But one of the exciting changes is that you have a way to reapply quite conveniently from your family dashboard if you are somebody who has applied before. Now, if you're a brand new applicant, you simply go to the button that says New Application, and you would click there to start your new application. If, however, you have applied previously, then you will see 2 tabs at the top. One says Ongoing Applications, and the other says Previous Applications. If you have an application currently open, so let's say that you applied for January 2026 entry or for August 2025 entry, but your application is still open because you are hoping to have a January offer, you'll find your existing application here under Ongoing Applications. And once you find that application, you can simply move to the Reapply button and click on that to start your new application for August 2026 entry. The other thing I want to point out while I'm on this slide is that once you start your application, you get assigned an admissions officer, or rather, once you submit your application, you are assigned your admissions officer, and you can contact them at any point during your admissions journey. And new this year, we also indicate our timeline for the application process, and I'll be speaking about that in a few slides from now. Okay, so if you applied previously, but your previous application is closed, it's no longer active, you can go to the Previous Applications tab, and then you see the Reapply button, and that is how you can reapply. If you have a previous application, whether that's still open or was closed, you simply have to update that application with the new information, complete any new questions that our current application has, and the new student statement. That's important. We really want to make sure that reapplicants respond to our new questions, and then you go ahead and submit the application. So a little bit about the parts of the application or some decisions that you need to make. The first decision will be, are you applying to a single campus, either just Dover or just East, or are you applying to both Dover and East campus, in which case that would be what we call a dual campus application. If you're applying as a boarding student, that is by definition a dual campus application, and we make decisions about which boarding community we might be able to offer you a place at. One important thing I want to mention for dual applications is that it's really important to make sure that you are equally excited about both campuses if you're applying dual, because we will make the decision about which campus we can offer you a place at, and we do not permit campus transfers once you've accepted a place on one campus. So the other thing is, of course, you'll have to upload school reports, as I mentioned earlier, and they do need to be translated into English. The student statement, handwritten and uploaded by the student for grade 6 and above. And we do have new questions this year. And a very important new piece in our application is that this year we are asking all applicants to indicate your language choice or all of your subject choices. I'm going to say more about that on the next slide, so coming up in a minute. And the additional pieces you will need to submit are any specialist reports, if that applies to your child. So for example, if they have an educational psychologist report or a speech therapy report or an occupational therapy report, anything like that, please do submit that information to us and any other information you'd like us to know about. And then you pay the application fee and submit your application. So now I'm going to say a bit more about this subject and language choices section of the application. So new this year for all grades except grade 11, where we've always asked applicants to do this, we do have a separate section where we are asking you to indicate your most likely language choice for K1 to grade 8, or your most likely full subject choices for grades 9, grades 10, and grades 11. Now, please rest assured that when you get to this section, the form that you're asked to complete will also have some important guidance information linked to that form. Please do read that guidance information because I think it'll help you when making your selections and help answer some of the questions you're likely to have about, well, what do these language choices mean, or what do these subject options mean for grade 9 and grade 10 and grade 11. For some subjects, you may be asked to indicate an alternative in case that your first choice doesn't open up or doesn't become available later on. And the form is set up in such a way that it will require you to select all of the required subject groups and number of courses and levels. And if you are applying to both campuses or a dual campus application, it will ask you, you'll have separate tabs to complete. For example, on the screen here, you can see in the image that there's a tab for the Dover subject options and another tab for the East subject options. So you'll have to do the subject selection for each campus. Now, I'm sure that some people may be this might get you a little bit anxious thinking, oh my goodness, do I have to choose all my subjects right now? And is there any flexibility later on? So let me explain the types of changes that could happen later on. First of all, if you are an English language learner or your child is, if after the EAL review or the EAL assessment, our teachers recommend a different English course from the one that you selected, then we will get in touch with you to advise you about that change that's needed. Similarly, in some cases, you may be recommended a different subject or level by the academic staff who reviewed your application. This could affect languages, or for example, for grade 11s, it could affect some of your optional subjects, the music, art, design, technology, for example. And again, your admissions officer will get in touch with you. Now, if you want to change a subject that you initially selected, you are welcome to contact your admissions officer. And whether or not that change is possible will depend on the availability and timetabling constraints on our side. So the earlier you do that, the better. So that was a little bit about our new feature on choosing your language and subject options when you apply. So once you've submitted your application, it takes us a little while to make sure that we've got all the documents in place and follow up with you if there's anything still required. And then you will receive an application acknowledgement. Once we have reviewed the application and following any assessments required, we will give you an outcome of the review. And that means whether or not your child has met our entry criteria and can be considered for the offer rounds when we get to those. You can update us at any time, and you do need to update us if there are updated school reports or any pertinent information that has changed in particular. We will update you periodically on your application status. And of course, all the way through your admissions journey, you can count on our team to support you, particularly your assigned admissions officer. So our timeline is actually already live and on the website. We actually opened applications for 2026 entry just yesterday, the 1st of September. And so the blue circles on this timeline show you the start of the application cycle yesterday and the start of term 1 in August 2026. The 3 red circles here are our 3 application deadlines. And again, I'm going to spend a little time unpacking that for you in a minute. And finally, the gray circles represent our offer rounds or our offer timelines. So let me show you what this looks like for each category of applications. So if you're applying as a day student for K1 through grade 11, then the offer rounds take place in January and in March next year. And you need to apply by these deadlines in order to be considered for each offer round. So by early November for January offer round and by early February for the March offer round. After those 2 main offer rounds, we will make additional offers or what we call our late offers as and when places arise due to additional leavers from our current community. For boarding, what does this look like? Again, the same offer rounds in January and March, but the second boarding deadline is earlier. So do take note of that. That will be the 5th of January rather than early February. And again, just a reminder that our last entry point for grade 8 for boarding will be in 2026. And from 27, we will no longer offer grade 8 as an option for boarding. Finally, for January entry, we do have a January entry point up to grade 10. And applications can be submitted at any time and until we keep applications open for the January entry point. However, I should note that typically we have limited spaces for the January entry point and quite often limited language and subject options as well. So those are some things to keep in mind, and our offers for January entry are typically made in October. So that brings me to my last slide of the formal part of this presentation. I want to just invite you to connect with our team. I work with wonderful colleagues. As I mentioned, you will get your designated admissions officer. And we really look forward to connecting with you in our upcoming open days, but also you can book a tour or a virtual meeting once our open day season is over. This QR code takes you to more information on our website, so we invite you to take a look at that. But now it is time to go to our question and answer period. Thank you so much for your patience with listening to a lot of detailed information about the admissions process. And I did forget to say at the beginning that this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be posted on our website within a couple of days after today. So if you want to refresh yourselves about what I've said, or you want to encourage friends to listen in, please do so. And with that, I am going to turn to our question and answers. I'm going to invite my colleague, Katie Phantom, to join me. Here she is now. By complete coincidence, both of us have decided to wear pink today. It is not the admissions uniform. It just happens to be we're dressed today. Katie and I will be happy to take your questions. Katie is going to serve as our moderator today to guide us through those questions. And some of my colleagues are also standing by behind the scenes, responding to some of your questions through written responses. So look out for those as well. If you haven't yet submitted a question through the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, now is a good time to do so. And we'll spend approximately 30 minutes or so on the Q&A. It depends on how many questions we have to get through. All right, Katie, are you ready?
I am ready, Malika. Thank you very much. Now, please take a quick breath, take a drink, and refresh yourself. I would like to take the first question, actually, just to give you a time to get your breath back. And one of the questions that came in was around the differences between the two application and the two offer rounds. A family just wanted to know whether we split the offers or do we give more offers in one round than the other. I can certainly answer the first question about the differences. We tend to split the amount of offers that we make as evenly as we possibly can between the two offer rounds. We do encourage families to apply by the application deadlines to be considered for those offer rounds. So do take care that you do meet those application deadlines. Once you've met the application deadline for the first round, we can consider you in the first round of offers. If we're unable to make any offers to you in the first round, we will also consider you for the second round of offers and late offers after that. So Malika, got your breath back?
I do.
Fantastic. A couple of questions have come in about K1 applicants. So questions around reports. What reports, do they have to have reports if they're coming into K1 and K2? Wonder whether you could answer that for us.
Certainly. So a lot of our K1 and K2 applicants have been in preschools at the time before they are ready to join UWC, and we would like to see those school reports for as many years as they've been in any kind of schooling. If a lot of preschools do have their own reports in whatever format they choose. And actually, they give us a lot of great information. So those are the reports that we would be expecting. If your child's school doesn't produce formal reports, then something in lieu would be helpful from their class teacher, for example, just a fairly detailed commentary on the child and what they're like in their current learning environment would be helpful for us. If your child has not been in any kind of formal schooling, then we don't obviously in that situation expect a school report because there wouldn't be one. But then we would expect them to come in as part of our regular meet and play opportunity for our infant schools team to get a better understanding of your child and their readiness for our learning environment.
That's great. Thank you, Malika. We have had 2 or 3 questions around Singapore citizenship, and especially one about a dual citizenship, Singapore and another country. I wonder whether you could just give us a little bit of guidance to the families about how we deal with Singapore citizens. And one family has also asked, and how does the MOE waiver process work?
Certainly. So let me address the dual nationality question first, and then I'll move on from there. So regardless of whether your child has dual nationality, if one of their nationalities is Singaporean, then everything that all of our policies that apply to Singapore citizens also apply to your child. And that's because it's the Singapore citizenship that is the valid immigration type or category that enables them to live and study in Singapore. So coming to our approach to Singapore citizens, we've actually just slightly changed our policy on accepting applications from Singapore citizens in the sense that we now accept applications from any Singapore citizen, with the exception of kindergarten 1 and kindergarten 2, K1 and K2. In other words, your child has to be above P1 registration age in the local system when they join us to be able to apply to the college. So that's the really key piece. And this is all explained on our very detailed information page for Singapore citizens. I'm very sure that my colleagues will be popping that information into the Q&A response to those who've asked about Singapore citizenship. Now, we do have strict priority categories for the offers that we can make to Singapore citizens. And again, all of that is explained on our website. But essentially, we have to prioritize from among our Singapore citizen applications because we have to very carefully manage our Singapore citizen enrollment at the college. And those who come in as new students are required to have an MOE waiver in order to attend what's called a foreign system school, which we fall under that category. I think there was the question about the MOE waiver process itself. So the college has to submit the application on behalf of a family, but it is the family who applies for the MOE waiver. So if we are in a position to make your child an offer, and if they're as a Singapore citizen, the next step will be that we support you with that application process. We will guide you on everything required, and then we submit the application on your behalf to the MOE. The MOE then makes its deliberations and makes a decision on whether or not they approve the waiver application. Once it becomes approved, that's when we start our formal offer process, involving the formal offer and payment and so on. We can't even embark on the formal offer process until the MOE waiver is approved by the ministry.
That's great. Thank you very much, Malika. Just picking up on one of the slides that we showed about the EAL process for a primary school applicant. So primary school is for this particular grade, it's grade 1 to grade 5. The family would like to know. How do we review for EAL? Is there a test? Is there an interview? Is there a face-to-face talk? Just a little bit more information around that.
Sure, that's a great question. So I did mention that for primary school, we do not have any testing at this time, and nor do we interview students. We are trying to avoid putting younger children through a lot of testing, and so we don't do that. And our EAL coordinators at this point review the application very thoroughly with all of the information that parents have submitted, including school reports. And then we will typically reach out to the child's current English teacher to get a deeper understanding of the child's English language background, exposure, and their proficiency. And that gives our EAL coordinators sufficient information to make the decision about whether your child can come into UWC either as part of our EAL support program or perhaps without needing any EAL support. So that's how the process works. So as of now, no testing for primary applicants.
That's great. Thank you, Malika. I can feel a little bit of anxiety from some families about our K1 and K2 meet and play session. For those families who do have children of that age, I really would recommend that you sign up to our webinar for our infant school. It's a great way to understand a little bit more about the processes. But just to answer a couple of questions on the meet and play, I can certainly answer the first one. And that is, if the child is not performing particularly very well on that day or has separation anxiety, well, that be a detrimental impact to their session. We would like to say no. We would certainly invite you back. So if the student is really struggling that day, doesn't want to go into the class, or is ill and is unable to come, we will definitely be able to reschedule that session for you. So please really don't worry. We will find a way to get the opportunity to invite you back in. But do join our webinars for a lot more information.
And can I just jump in and add that our infant school webinar actually takes place tomorrow, and you will have the benefit of hearing directly from our two infant school vice principals in the Q&A part of the program. And I'm very sure that they will touch on the meet and play session in some detail. So there's nothing like hearing it directly from them.
Absolutely. And one quick question about the K1 meet and play again, just to round that off. If the family is not based in Singapore, Malika, do they have to come and attend that?
Yeah, great question. So no, the answer is we do not require families to come all the way here with their little one if they're not based in Singapore. In that case, we will reach out to the child's current school for more information and pass that along to our infant school team to review.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. A question about campus transfers. The family here says we know it's not permitted, but is that not permitted throughout every grade or just some grades?
That's a policy throughout the college. We really want to foster college communities, campus communities that where students feel a sense of belonging and they grow through the school on their particular campus. Singapore is not a very big place, and we do know that families will move sometimes, but that would create a lot of instability if our families were moving within Singapore and their children were transferring, back and forth. So it's really for good reasons that we have this policy in place. There are very particular circumstances which are provided as potential exceptions to that. Those are flagged in our terms and conditions, but it's very, very rare indeed for a campus transfer to happen.
Thank you. We have a family that's looking to apply as a dual application. Very good question. Will their application be reviewed separately on each campus? And how does that influence our admissions acceptance? So we'll talk a little bit about our dual applications.
Sure. That's a great question. So we get a lot of dual campus applicants, which is great. We really like the fact that families are keen on the UWC experience and want that for their child. We are very, very closely aligned across the college in terms of the educational program, the approach, the philosophy, the expectations, and therefore your child's application will be reviewed if it needs to be reviewed by a staff member. That dual campus application will be referred to one or the other of our teams for review. And whatever the outcome is of that review will apply to both campuses. So we regularly engage in conversations with the educational staff on both our campuses. There is a reason why our webinars are joint or combined webinars, where you're hearing from the principals of the corresponding school sections on both campuses. And that should indicate to you how closely aligned our learning program is on the two campuses. So we do not feel the need for separate reviews. And therefore, whatever the outcome is of the review remains the case, is applied to both campuses when we're thinking about the student's eligibility to be considered for a place.
That's great. Thank you. I can answer this one, actually. We have a family that's moving to Singapore and their visas will not be ready yet at the point of application. Do they delay their application? Can they still apply? The answer is yes, absolutely. You can apply without your Singapore immigration visa in place. We just ask you to indicate what likely immigration pass both parents will be on and also the students will be on as well. So please don't delay, just apply and put the most likely immigration pass that you will be receiving for your stay in Singapore. Malika, I have a question about scholarships. One family would like to know whether we have any scholarships open from grade 9. So I wonder if you can talk a little bit about how we work with our national committees for our scholars.
Sure. So we do not offer any direct scholarships from the college to those applying directly to us through our normal application process. The students who I referred to, who are our scholars, are applying and selected through the UWC national committees in their home countries. So that is a route available to families who have financial need and who want their child to be considered for a partial or full scholarship. However, we make certain offers of places to different national committees every year, and that list of whom we offer a place to can change from year to year. So it's not always the case that you can be assured of a place here at UWCSEA if you're applying through your national committee in your home country, because in a particular year, that national committee may get an offer from a different UWC or from a few other UWCs, but not from UWC here in Singapore. So the bottom line is that if you would like your child to study at UWC here in Singapore, at UWC-SEA, then you would need to apply directly. But with this application route, we do not have any scholarships available.
That's great. Thank you, Malika. A question about our virtual immersion program, our VIP for our high school applicants. And high school is grade 9, grade 10, and grade 11. This family was just wanting to know, when will these sessions be planned for, approximately which months and what time of the day?
Sure. Thank you for that question. So if you apply in time for our first application deadline, which is the uh, the 3rd of November.
November, yes.
Then the VIP sessions are scheduled in the months of November and December. And we have several sessions running across that period, and your child will be invited to one of those. We tend to not have much flexibility to reschedule, but typically the students' commitment will all happen on the same day. So they will have their interview in the morning usually, and the afternoon period between 3 to 4:30 Singapore time is when the interactive activity generally takes place. So that's what you can expect. And then if you're applying in time for our second application deadline, which is the 2nd of February, then or if you're applying for boarding for the second round, where the application deadline is early January, your VIPs for those, for that second offer round, will be held between January and March. So that's when you can expect the VIP. But again, in most cases, the commitment for the student is just on one particular day.
Thank you, Malika. And just a shout out to my colleagues who are typing furiously in the background. I can see a couple of families asking for the links to certain open day webinars. So I'm sure that they will get to your question very soon with those links. Malika, another question about a dual application. This family would like to know, would they have a higher chance of an offer if they applied dual rather than a single campus application?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, look, the way I would put it is that if you're applying as a dual applicant, you are obviously then being considered for a larger number of total available places. So purely technically, yes, is the answer to your question. Again, we do typically get 2 to 3 applications per place available. So that is the rough selectivity ratio. And, I think it's fair to say, yes, it gives us more room to consider your child for an offer on one or the other of our campuses. And a little bit more flexibility, because depending on the grades, that the grades that your children are applying to, then we can look at what the possibilities are on both our campuses. One thing I should mention there is that we don't place children from the same family on the different campuses, so we will keep a family together on the same campus.
Thank you, Malika. One family is very sure that they would like a UWC education for their child. And their question is, can they apply to several UWCs at the same time?
Thank you. We love families who are keen on the UWC movement. So shout out to you. Can you apply to different UWCs at the same time? The answer is no. And it is really important to know this. We actually have a question as part of our application process about whether you are applying or considering applying to another UWC. And we do need to, you do need to make a choice about how you are. So there are different application routes, and you do need to make a decision about which UWC route you are applying to. So if you're applying through your home country's national committee process, that's one route through which you can apply. There is also something called the Global Selection Program for students who don't need financial aid or scholarships, who can afford the fees. And you can choose up to 3 UWCs in that process that you want to indicate. But we do not participate in that Global Selection Program route. And so in order to apply to us, you do have to apply directly if you're applying as a fee-paying student. There is more on our website. And also, if you write in with your specific situation, we can advise you.
Thank you. Thank you
Come
very
and
much,
meet us at an open day.
Absolutely. A question about the actual questions inside our application form. So this family is asking, what's the best way to answer your questions? Is it, would it be giving explicit examples? The best way to highlight any points inside our application form? I wonder whether you could answer that.
Thank you for the question. I want to answer in one word to begin with, and that is, what's the best way to answer? Authentically is what I would say. Just really, answer with whatever came into your mind as what are you prompted to think about when you see that question. And I would give the same advice to students who are applying to grade 6 and above for the student statement part of it. Is there a particular, expectation? No, we really want authentic responses. If an example helps you illustrate something for us, fantastic. By all means, put it in. But we don't have any formula for this. We really want the most authentic responses, because we're just trying to get an understanding of you and your family, and make sense of that as part of your child's application.
We have a couple of questions. I think families are getting a little bit confused about how they start an application. They've seen some pictures of our family dashboard and wanting to know how to get onto the family dashboard. I wonder whether you can just talk through to a family how they go through our initial first questions on our web page before they are able to get to our apply now.
Oh, thank you. And I think that's a good question, and it's making me think that going forward we should show you that screen before we show you the family dashboard. So it's a good piece of feedback for us. So on our website there is something called the Make an Application page. I'm very sure my colleagues will send you the link to that as soon as they can. And that page invites you to quickly read through a few important points that we need you to read and understand. So there are things there about our age grade boundaries, about our residency expectations if you're applying as a day student, about Singapore citizenship, and about EAL. So there are 4 items on that Make an Application page. Once you tick to say you have read and understood, or that something doesn't apply to you, as the case may be, that then activates a button. It'll light up, the color will change, and that button says apply now, if I'm not mistaken. And it takes you straight to that family dashboard and our application portal. So that is how you access it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Malika. Just trying to find the most appropriate question. This is a very good question. Are there any program differences between the 2 campuses that this family need to be aware of before they make a decision about which campus to apply to?
So the learning program is almost identical on the 2 campuses. And again, you learn more about this in our school-specific webinar sessions when you hear from our learning leadership, from the principals. In a few cases, very few, there are minor subject offer differences between the 2 campuses. So an example is the fact that we offer German and Dutch language on our Dover campus as taught curriculum languages, whereas we do not at our East campus. That's one example. There are minor differences in the in 1 or 2 of the other subjects. So another example that comes to mind is that philosophy as an IB subject is offered at the Dover campus and not at the East campus. So it's really minor differences about subject choices or language choices. And you can review those options that are available on our website, because we've got guidance about the IB subjects, we've got guidance about the grade 9 and 10 program and the subject offers. So very, very minor differences.
That's great. And we're on to our last few questions here. This family would like to know, how competitive is the application process? How many applications do we typically receive, and how many offers do we typically make?
It varies every year. But I think that overall, it's fair to say what we indicate on our website and one of our slides, or a couple of our slides, where I showed you the anticipated space availability. I mentioned that we typically get 2 to 3 applications per place. So that is roughly the best answer I can give as to how selective or how competitive it is to receive an offer. I think it's fair to say that there are we have limited support capacity, and that might also affect a student's chances. So again, on our website, we have tried to be as transparent as possible about the fact that, typically about 15 or 16% of all of our applicants, sorry, 15 to 16% of all of our offers go to students who are English language learners. We would love to stretch that a bit, but it's very dependent on support capacity and on how many current students are being supported. And likewise, for other kinds, for neurodiversity, we have learning support. The school has excellent provision, but it is limited in capacity, and therefore our ability to make offers will be dependent on some of those things. I talked about being able to be responsibly inclusive, and we have to carefully balance how many offers we can make against support needs and support capacity. So yes, it is competitive, but at the same time, we have a good number of spaces available. I started the webinar talking about how we've just welcomed close to 1,000 new students across all the grades on both campuses. That's a large number of new students, so we make a lot of offers. And I think somebody compared that to the size of a small liberal arts college in the United States. You know, that's so we are large, and we therefore have a large number of spaces to fill. That's the good news.
Thank you, Malika. Last couple of questions again. We know that we are an international school. We are very lucky that our students tend to stay for quite a lengthy period of time in the college. But if a family did have to leave and relocate overseas, how do they transition back if they wanted to apply back to UWC again? Do they have to reapply, or is it an automatic place?
You do have to reapply. We regularly have returning students, and we certainly give them very strong consideration in the admissions process. But you do have to reapply as a returning student. And certainly we have, over the years, welcomed back many returning students. Families may leave for a few years and then find themselves returning to Singapore. And of course, we welcome their children's applications.
That's great. One question literally has just come in. We will be sharing this recording in case you missed the previous references. We'll definitely be able to share this recording, and it will also be on our website very soon. So Malika, your very last question, you've been fantastic at answering these. Just to circle back to one of the first comments that you made about the Dover campus, a couple of questions about if you could just confirm again, when will Dover be moving? Where is it moving to? And for which grades will this mean that they'll be graduating from the new campus?
Yes, so because of the expiry of our Dover Road lease, we will be moving, the Dover campus will be moving to Tenga, which is in the which is further west on the island, in 2032. So August of 2032 is our expected move to Tenga. And what will happen is that the whole of the Dover campus community will move at the same time, all grades. We will not be doing it as a staggered approach. So the entire college community at the Dover campus will move to Tenga in 2032. What that means is that if your child is joining the Dover campus in August 2026 in grade 6 or below, then they will be moving to Tenga. They will be affected by the move, and they will then graduate. If they stay that many years, they will graduate on the new campus. But Katie's background shows you our East Campus. And as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, we did build that campus from scratch, and it was a purpose-built campus. And you know, now it's as if that part of Singapore has never known it to not be there. As a matter of fact, a taxi driver just said to me the other day, "Oh, Dover campus? I only know the Tampines campus," which was a funny moment. So, you know, I am very sure that we will have a very successful campus development for the new Tenga campus as well.
Thank you, Malika. All done.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you very much to our audience. Before you leave us, if you can spare a couple of minutes, we would love to invite your feedback on today's webinar. So we're going to pop up a QR code in a moment. There it is. So if you could kindly scan that QR code and give us your feedback, we'd love to know your impressions and any suggestions you have for how to improve on this further. And we would also like to remind you to please sign up for our upcoming open days. There are webinars, there's a chance to come onto campus and experience life on campus on a real, regular working day, school day for students, and feel all of the buzz of why we are so in love with our community and our learning program. So thank you all very much, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.